Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the unexpected perks of wearing the Christian head covering. I know, kind of a strange topic, and hopefully it'll be a little fun, so hang with me. My name is Eleanor, and I go by Radically for Jesus here on YouTube. And I make videos in a lot of different realms. Most of them you could sum up as the Titus 2 realm, as many of you know if you're already used to my channel. But this little message is for those of you who are not used to my channel. So the type of videos that I cover are homemaking, head covering, homeschooling, being a wife and mama, and sometimes even vlogs, and there's other topics I do too, but most of it's summed up in that Titus 2 realm. Generally, my videos are to the Christian sisters. So if any of that's of interest to you, please hang around, and maybe if you like what you see, like and subscribe. On to today's topic. Basically, this little thing was something I thought about a little while ago that I thought maybe some people who are new to head covering or thinking about head covering might find kind of interesting. Maybe even if you've worn it a long time, give me an idea of what your perks or pros and cons and the like are with wearing the head covering. It was kind of a thing, the things that you don't maybe expect as well. There are several things after I started wearing the head covering that I started to notice. One of which, and I have a little list of them here that I wrote down, was I was finding less hair and food around the house and stuff. So like, when you're eating your big salad and all of a sudden you pull out this big nasty stringy hair, no one likes that, right? Well, because you're covering your hair more, it's kind of like having a hairnet, and quite often that helps just having that covered. So you find less hair in your food, which is sweet. I like that. No one likes having hair in your food. It's just gross. You also find less laying around your house and stuff. Now, that said, I still do find plenty in the house and stuff like that, especially in the bathrooms, because my hair is very long. It's down past my bottom. So when you find one, it's really obnoxious. And the same with my daughter. Her hair's super long too. So between the two of us, we do have hair, but she's young and she doesn't cover yet, so I tend to find more of hers. It's a little lighter, so you can tell the difference. But regardless, we can get a lot of hair, and the head covering definitely kind of helps suppress that a little bit, which is a good thing in my opinion. Of course, wearing your hair back or in a bun or a braid or something like that can help too. But covering it, it helps. And it was an unexpected perk. One of the things I really, really did not expect was, I think because of covering it, the sun hits your hair a lot less, obviously. And I found my hair started getting darker and darker and darker. I had less highlights in my hair. Used to, my hair had a lot of kind of light brown, almost a reddish hue highlights here and there. Generally, my hair has been brown or dark brown, but the older I got, it's gotten darker and darker, and that really rapidly changed after I started covering it all the time. And people were asking me, "Are you dyeing your hair dark?" And I'm like, "No, it's just, I'm not messing with it. It's natural colors, there, and it's not getting any lightning by the sun, or at least only maybe here on the front a little bit happens, but it stays pretty dark." Now, I am starting to get some grays and stuff peeking through, but I do think not having the sun beating down on your hair kind of helps that a little bit, which would lead me to another factor that I would consider a pro. It kind of protects the back of your neck and stuff some. And of course, depending on your style, if you're wearing a fuller style, then you have a little bit more sun protection. For those of you hitting my microphone, y'all know me. I'm so bad about that. Hopefully, I don't have to re-record that. But for those of you who are really worried about the sun on your skin and stuff, a fuller head covering can certainly help some of that, especially along the sides of your neck. I don't have as much of that myself, but I do have the back. Usually, back of my neck will be covered some, so that's kind of a good thing. I do think that a lot of women are very, very worried about their grays, and I understand that. I think it's always tricky as you start to change. You feel like you're losing that youth. I mean, I'm getting more of them. They're not obvious, but they're starting to, if the light catches them right, they kind of almost glitter or something in your hair. It doesn't really bother me that much though, only the teeniest bit, and it's not really the gray themselves, it's that loss of feeling like a younger person and you're starting to feel a little old or something. I don't know. Getting tired. I don't know. I think most people don't really look forward to those grays, but for me, I'm really not worried about it. I figure they're going to happen and it is what it is. Obviously, the Bible has some good things to say about those with grays, that crown of silver. But for better or worse, if you're one who doesn't like your gray hairs, the head covering does tend to cover some of them up, and depending on the style, you can cover more or less. So maybe it may make you less desiring of all the hair dye stuff. I have not dyed in many years. Before I had the head covering, once in a while I would do a little darker hair dye because I was kind of wanting my hair darker. And then the quirk of it is it got darker as I put the covering on. But my natural hair color is what you see. I know many people do lots and lots of hair dye. I've just never had the patience for it, to be honest. It's just not my thing. I feel like that's probably just as well to be content with what the good Lord gave me there. But for better or worse, if the gray hairs or, things like that bother you, the hair covering can cover some of that up. If you're having a problem with thinning hair, it can cover it up. Now, this is where there can be a con. Depending on the type of head covering style you choose, be a little careful. There has been a few people that have reported thinning hair. That is something I'm paranoid about because I've had some thinning hair at different times. Now, I do not believe mine is related to my head covering. The reason why is mine was almost 100% related to diet, especially when I was doing very hardcore keto. And I don't blame keto, just for the record. I still think keto is a very good thing. But I don't think I was getting enough protein. And you have to be careful not to get too much protein, but you got to find the right balance. You need enough to get your hair going. And I don't think I was eating enough. So I strongly believe, because that's the only time in my life that I had a major problem with really thinning hair. Because I've covered since 2001. So that's been a long time. I never had a major problem with it, only with that diet time frame. But there's been a few people who have reported it. They're usually people who wear a much heavier, fuller style. And I think the issue comes in your scalp not breathing as much. So that's something to consider in the type of fabrics that you choose and how heavy of a style that you wear. I do think lighter, thinner, more breathable is better for your head. So just choose wisely and experiment. And if you notice a problem, you need to change. Synthetics are a bear for letting your hair breathe, or your head breathe, I should say. So I would avoid those as much as possible unless it's very thin. The particular thing I have on right now is a lace, and it's mostly cotton, but it probably has a little bit of polyester mixed in. It's hard to tell. The particular fabric, I don't know. It didn't come from the fabric store, so I don't really know what it initially was. But I would recommend watching if you're having a problem. Now, what does happen to a lot of head covering ladies is thinning in spots. And that has nothing to do with the head covering, but as much as how you're securing your head covering. So if you're sliding bobby pins in at the same point every day, like I used to slide it right up the top of my ear and then hook in right here with a white bobby pin. Did it every day, and I started having lots and lots and lots of little fuzzy hairs here. Now I still have some naturally, but I kind of always did. But they really exploded for a while, and it was because the bobby pins were shearing my hair. And I would hook in up here and here and here. And I'd usually kind of get the lower sides too. And inevitably, those bobby pins were bad to shear my hair. Now, it can matter the brand that you choose for your hair clips, bobby pins, or whatever. Bobby pins aren't evil, but if you're going to use them, move them around so it's not in the same exact spot every day. I had a bad habit of just the places where it felt comfortable to secure. I didn't really vary that much, so that's where I tended to put them, and I was getting hair shear. Now, what I do now, and it has pretty much stopped all hair shear for me, is if you have seen my other videos, I use wig clips. I don't mess with bobby pins hardly at all anymore. The wig clips are sewn to the underside. I will see if I can pop that off real quick. You can see in my other videos, but see that little clip under there? See if I can get close. But that little clip is sewn in. It just hooks your hair, and there's kind of a rubbery area on it to keep it from slipping. You pop it down, and it stays all day, and I don't have hair shear anymore. So for better or worse, those wig clips have solved my hair problem. I'm not a fan of the fact that, of course, when you do that, it stays in the same spot. The only problem I have with that is not hair shear, but sometimes my head will get just a little sore after many, many hours. And it's not bad because of the way they hook in. They don't really pull in the same way a lot of clips will. But what can get you is if you have any weight at all to your veil, after several hours, you might find it pulling backwards just a teeny bit. Again, not as bad as like a bobby pin, but what I do in those cases is I'll just unpop it and either move my veil forward or backwards, like maybe a half an inch or something like that, and adjust the spot. And I maybe have to do that once a day, and I don't even do that every day, to be honest. And I think what tends to cause it to get tender is if I've used like a shampoo or something that's made my head sore, and then I might feel a little extra tenderness or something there making me want to adjust and move my veil around a little. But all in all, wig clips have solved most of my problems. Most days I don't mess with my veil. I put it on and I leave it on and I take it off at night, and it's fine. I don't have the hair shear, so I really, really recommend those. But the whole point of this was to bring out what you're putting your head covering on with and securing it with can absolutely have an effect, and that can be a very negative effect, because imagine most of you don't want your hair sheared off from your clips, so be aware of that. One of the perks that I personally have found, and this can vary widely depending on how you cover and your personality and what you like to do for getting ready for your day, but I felt like it takes me a lot less time to get ready for my day because there's less fuss about my hair and trying to get a perfect style. I never mess with curling hair or anything like that. It's extremely rare I get a curling iron out for anything. I do have a slight bang to kind of help with my really, really high forehead, which good Lord just gave me, but once in a great while, if my bang is laying like really weird and like standing up or doing something unusual, I might get a curling iron and just kind of iron it out so it's just a little flatter and not doing anything weird. But most days I don't have to do anything because I let my hair air dry, and when it dries I try to pull them down so they just kind of dry in a normal position, and it's fine. Well, at least it's fine to me. But I'm not a big fussy person with my hair. I never have been. I don't like taking a ton of time with it. I want to look presentable, absolutely, but I don't do a lot of precise styling of my hair. I never have. But for better or worse, I felt like that putting the veil on made me feel like I had to do less of that, because naturally, obviously, more of it's going to be covered. Now, it again depends on... Oh, a bird just hit the window. Hi, I had to cut the video there between a bird hitting the window and then some messages coming through on my phone which interrupted the video. Basically, the next thing to discuss is the warmer or cooler. Now, I did a whole video on this a while back. I do feel like the head covering can keep you much cooler in the summer, especially if you do something like I have on right now, white and thin. And that's just partly because I have that dark hair. So if I'm out with my dark hair and I am in the sun, that sun just beats down on that dark hair, and that darkness absorbs that heat so much more. But the white of the head covering reflects it. So if I have a day and I know I am going to be out in the sun, I will not choose a black head covering. I will always choose one of my white ones, because I don't want to be out. Even on a cool day, that sun is just so much absorbed depending on the color of the covering. So that is a huge perk to me. I can alter the color of my head covering according to whether I want to feel warmer or cooler. And I like that. I like that a lot because I don't like getting hot. And if it's in the summer, I really don't want to get hot. In the winter, I don't think as much about it one way or the other. In theory, I could always try to choose a darker one or a black one, so it would absorb more sun, but just generally I'm good in the winter. I'm comfortable most of the time. But certainly with the head covering, you can also choose a fuller, more expansive veil or something like that to have more coverage and keep your ears covered and things like that. I definitely have done that in the past. I also sometimes will use an overcovering and just kind of put a big veil or warm shawl or something up and over my head more and kind of get the ears covered if I'm going to be out in the wind. I live in Northeast Ohio, and it can get really cold and sometimes really windy depending. Now, I was living in Columbus, Ohio for many years, and it's actually a little worse there for wind because it's very flat in Columbus, and the winds could be mean cold. They'd have such a hard bite to them, and I definitely had, on some of those cold days, I would get an over shawl, and I would put that right on top of the covering and sometimes even pin it to it so it couldn't slip down, and it worked beautifully. But the point is you can layer or adjust your collars or do whatever you want there to feel warmer or cooler, and I think that's a huge perk. Oh no, I had another point here. Oh, hair out of the way. I didn't always keep my hair out of the way before I wore a veil. Some days I would wear it down. One, my hair wasn't as long then. It was maybe a bit below shoulder length or so when I very started veiling, and a lot of times it would be like falling in your face and getting in your way and all that. I very rarely wear my hair down. The one exception is if I'm migrating sometimes at home. A migraine will make me take my covering off and go into a dark room, as I imagine you can figure that out. And I won't want anything pulling or tugging on my scalp, not a hairband, nothing. And in those cases, it is what it is. You just got to deal with it until that migraine goes away, which magnesium really helps a lot, by the way. But that said, most of the time, especially because of the covering, I have my hair pulled back either in a single plain braid or in, once in a while, I'll use a ponytail. Sometimes I'll have a bun that's kind of what you might call a messy bun, covered. Sometimes I'll use the hairpin bun, like I've got videos on how to do those in the past, which I really need to redo those. But generally, I will have my hair either up or pulled back in some way, so it is out of my way. And if your hair is as long as mine is, I think you find that's really necessary to get it out of your way. Day-to-day life, it just constantly is in the way. When you lean over, it comes around your shoulder and gets in stuff. Not kidding. Don't leave your hair down and clean the toilets if you have long hair. Just personal tip. Yeah, done that before. Had to go clean that up. Yeah, not cool. Even things like when you're cooking, make sure if you have long hair, please be careful about that. That could be bad. But having your hair secured back daily is very helpful. And I do secure at some level daily. There are some covering styles where you could kind of leave your hair down and out the back and not have it really secured under there. Personally, they kind of drive me nuts because the head coverings never want to stay in place unless your hair is secured and kind of given a firm foundation to your hair clips and stuff. But it's up to you and the styles you like, the styles you want to choose, of course. I tend to always secure my hair in some way or form because otherwise that slippage drives me bonkers. I like simplicity, and I like to not have a lot of fuss. I like to be able to fix my hair in the morning, pop that head covering on, and then go about my day and not think about it. And that's how it's been for a long time, and I'm pretty happy with that in general. So less fuss is a good thing to me. It may not be to everybody, but it is to me. All in all, I think I think I've covered most of the points I had written down. If you have points that you like to discuss, pros or cons of head covering, feel free to put them in the comments, and other sisters and stuff can pop in and talk about them, and maybe we'll find people have different opinions and different experiences, especially depending on your styles and the like too, of what you think is a pro or con or unexpected perk. I know most of these I never considered before I started covering. I'm just didn't give it a lot of forethought. To me, it didn't matter because that wasn't the reason, of course, for covering. That was a much different reason, following the the scripture in 1 Corinthians. That was the main reason. So whether for good or for bad, whether it caused problems or didn't, I was going to do what I felt the Bible said that I needed to do. So sometimes that results unexpected perks, and I feel like that's kind of where this was. So I just thought it would be fun to do the video. I hope it has blessed you and that you guys have a wonderful and fantastic day.